Well, that is extremely wishful thinking, and I think that's a good place to bring it to the closing, what will be the closing segment on every episode, and that's what's called train of thought. So near the end of each episode, I'm going to ask each guest to sum up the theme or the central topic of our conversation that stood out for them. And then on the next episode, that guest is going to have to connect their topic to the last one in an ongoing train of thought. So since this is the first episode, Hums, you will begin the train of thought for the entire show. No small feat, no pressure. So how would you want to sum up this conversation or the major theme? And then on my next episode, that guest, who I happen to know is doing a cocktail with me, that guest will have to connect their episode to this in a very creative way. So that's a long way of saying, what do you think is the central theme or topic? And you did talk about both the planet dying. You talked about bad. I mean, you really went in a lot of directions.
But this is a good challenge, right? And this is the challenge of thought leaders, of thinkers, of educators, of academics, of anybody engaged in idea generation and expression. The onus is on us to simplify the ideas, to make them as accessible as possible, right?
So
it's good for the audience. It's good for me as well. I subscribe to the Lewinian school of thought when it comes to human behavior. I believe that human behavior is the result of an interplay between a person and their environment. And if we're thinking about the conditions that created us, it's safe to say that humans have a hard-coded fear of unknown environments. And therefore, you can extrapolate from that, we have a fear of change. We are actually resistant to change. During times of change, you and I and every other human who's ever existed has at least felt a modicum of resistance to the change and has therefore engaged in a modicum of a short-term guided, a short-term decision-making process that is in their best interest, that's survival-driven, but it's often at odds with what's in the best interest of the collective, of what's in the best interest of the environment. It's actually a vicious cycle. So we basically, let's just put it this way. We're afraid of change during times of change and transition.
Let me encourage you to sum this up very quickly, because I'm going to have to give this to the next guest in a very short, we talked about expression.
I got you. There's only two emotions. There's love and then there's fear. And this is not even an original idea. This was best encapsulated by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, best known for the 5 stages of grief and other works. Her quote is that there's only two emotions, love and fear. All positive emotions come from love. All negative emotions come from fear. And I would argue that modern civilization has been built by and in response to a long history of fear dating as far back as the first prey-predator interaction between a big cat and our earliest ancestors on the African savanna. So the big idea that I have for you is pick, as counterintuitive as it feels in every moment, love over fear. That's how we change ourselves, that's how we change systems, and that's how we ultimately change the world.
What would you say is the main topic of our conversation tonight? Main topic or theme?
What is intellectual property and should it be protected?
I would say that it's a good theme. What is intellectual property and should it be protected? Now, the last episode, when I asked them to sum up our conversation, we talked a bit about art and expressing, funny enough, but they said the summary of the conversation is everything is connected to love or fear. Everything is connected to either love or fear. So to continue this train of thought, what you have to do is let's think through what is intellectual property and should it be protected connect to everything comes down to love or fear.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Which, by the way, wow.
It's brilliant.
I couldn't have written that one better.
It's exactly what we've been talking about, right? Are you creating out of love and the intent to share? Or are you hoarding out of fear? Mm-hmm. Are you acting out of fear of what will happen if you release your intellectual property into the world?
And intent of the person taking it.
That
Are
too.
they
Yes.
acting out of fear because they don't think that they can produce an original enough story that will garner views and engagement and really get their ideas out there?
They're operating out of scarcity and not out of abundance, which is another word for love.
Yeah, I would definitely put
Yeah.
that in the same category for
Yeah.
sure. So then is intellectual property inherently out of fear or is it out of love?
I think it depends on the intent. I don't think it's inherently one or the other. It's like money. It's neither good or bad. It's what you do with it. I think it's the same thing with intellectual property. It depends on the intent with which you create it.
So it has to be put into the core of it.
Yeah.
As in, because of course we can think of many, many reasons where intellectual property keeps an artist creating. Like it keeps them being able to put
Oh,
love
yeah.
out in the world. So we
Yeah.
can think of definitely some love applications of it.
Absolutely. I mean, everything is energy. So it takes energy to create. If you are only given out the energy and it's never replenished, you're going to run out of the creative energy with which to create.
What would you say is a central theme or summary phrase of what we've talked about today?
All right. Ooh, good one. I would say the central theme it would be, of course, confidence is this unwavering belief in yourself, right? That
Okay.
we have the ability to develop over time.
Okay, so in any way that feels natural, I'm going to tell you what the theme is of the last episode, and as creatively as you can, we have to connect the two thoughts. The theme of the last episode ended with her saying, "What is intellectual property and should it be protected?" So how do we connect what is intellectual property and should it be protected with confidence is unwavering belief in yourself? Because I have got some thoughts already. So this is crazy.
Ooh, right? So both of those things are inherently about you and who you are. Intellectual property is this thing that you possess, this skill. Confidence, again, is the same thing. And so if you have this unwavering ability in yourself and your ability, and these are your special gifts and your tasks, then what you have, this intellectual property, whether you put it out in the universe, whether you create it or whatever it is yours. And you shouldn't let somebody else claim credit for it or take it away from you and put it as their calling stone, because it belongs to you and it is something that makes you unique and special. And when you get praised for this intellectual property, it will help grow your confidence, which will again blossom your career and lead, I think, to more inventions and innovations in the space.
Which is wild that that is what the last theme was, given what your next career is about to be, which is strictly intellectual property. If you think about it, I mean, it seems like a never ending loop because the more confidence you have, very likely, the more you are willing to put out ideas, which are intellectual property, books, be on a stage, all these things create intellectual property. And then the kind of loop of being on there feeds the confidence that got you there in the first place. What would you say was the central theme that we've discussed today?
We've discussed a lot.
I know. So you can pick one of the topics.
So let
Pick
me
one
pick
topic
one.
that stands
Let me
out
just
to you.
pick one.
Yeah, or it's gonna be a long
Connecting.
train.
Yeah, you know what? Connecting with humans, the human experience, and being okay with that.
Connecting to the human experience and being okay with that. Okay. So let's remember that because the theme of the last episode, what my guest said they wanted to move forward on the train of thought was, this is quote, confidence is an unwavering belief in yourself and you have the ability to develop it over time.
True, and that
So
falls
how
into
that feel like that's a
and
fun
that
train.
falls into me saying how you go from the contender, you live in your champion self.
There is a lot of
And you learn it
definitely
along the way.
some certainly poetic themes between the last episode and this one. But
Right.
so here we are. It is okay to connect with that human experience.
Okay.
How does that in your mind connect to confidence as an unwavering belief in yourself?
Because so confidence comes in like so many forms, right? Sometimes we do something and then we realize, I didn't know I could do that. And then now you're confident about it, right? Didn't know I could achieve that and I'm confident about it.
Right.
But a huge part of your confidence is just trying and
Mm.
then allowing yourself to feel confident without anyone telling
Mhm.
you you're not or what you can be. Like, I'm confident.
Mhm.
Excuse me, like, I'm here. And arriving into your confidence.
Mhm. And here and arriving, it feels like it's at the same time all the time.
Yes. Yeah, all the time because it's definitely can be an aha moment too
Yeah.
because you're like, yeah, I the other day I was having a conversation with Kay about just like my music, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, I feel like that I'm finally making exactly what I wanted to without 100% worrying about, oh, what is someone going to think?
Liberated.
What if I want to wear this outfit? Like, 'cause I'm very colorful and I love
Mhm.
I love like things that are just not like your ordinary, I
Yeah.
love whatever, big glasses, sparkles, glitter,
Nice.
fox fur, big hats. Like, I just love, and a lot of that is like that. It just came to me like, wow. And then I felt so confident. It's like I like
Mhm.
arrived at this moment of confidence.
Yeah.
And I thought I had that, but I like super feel it now. And it was that arrival. It's like a journey. Like there's so much there we can pick apart what confidence is in multiple layers.
Mhm.
But it's like really truly like an inner thing. And it doesn't just resonate with the outer confidence. It's like something in the inside that you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm confident about that. You know?
And to that human experience that you're pointing out, I mean, when
Yeah.
I say it feels like you're there and arriving all the time is because I feel like
All
I
the time.
have been blessed with confidence. I've always been a confident person, but at the
Mm,
same time,
mm.
I arrive at new levels in my life too and new learnings and
You?
I reach my own upper limits and realize
Yeah.
like wait a sec, there's another level I want to achieve. I want to continue expanding. And then it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to bring this version into that version and all that, right? So
Right.
at the end of each episode, I'll ask the guest to start by summarizing the key theme from what we've talked about. So I'll start by asking you that. What do you think was the key theme of our discussion today?
Oh, I have no idea. um, I'm more interested. Oh, I just went out of focus.
That's all
Um,
right. I have thoughts about everything. So
so I'm interested in what you have to say. I, 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 I don't know. Maybe the theme is be yourself, and the more you're yourself, the more successful you'll be. If you look at sort of the thread we're talking about from,
okay. So
and what were you going to
wow.
say?
No, I mean, let's go with that because this next one you really picked a good one there. I would say like, to be future ready, to something
Yep.
about being future ready is about, building up the skills to thrive and
Well,
change. But
yeah, like, and if you want to look at it from I was thinking of sort of from personal, but if we look at it more from a future ready perspective, I think future readiness is all about looking at the past and seeing what we're good at and what we've built, and then practicing that a little bit. And then also planning for the future, going, where do I want to go? What do I want to be? What do I want to create? What do I want to look at?
mhm,
And how am I going to engage people to make this all happen? Because I can't do it on my own.
right. Learning from the past, planning for the future and doing it with others.
Yeah, and being open that others aren't going to think exactly like you. So
Mhm.
where's that field that Rumi refers to that we can play in
Yeah.
and create that future? Because that's where the magic happens.
Okay, now the second part of train of thought is that I'm going to give you the theme from the last episode.
Okay.
And your job is to connect it in whatever way comes to mind for you. And
Okay.
this train has been going since the very first episode. So,
I love this.
on the last episode, the theme was summed up as which again, couldn't have chose this one better, seems to work every week, that we ought to try to just be human sometimes, and that is okay.
That sounds like, you know what? It sounds very much like what we've been talking about.
Unplanned.
Yeah, and so what do you want me to do? Try to connect that?
So you have to connect being human.
I'm going to connect this. It's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I know.
So whether we're talking about crooks in jail, nuns, corporate, students, speakers, consultants, educators, the more we shed all that stuff that's people that says we have to be certain ways and blah, 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 that when we bring our true selves forward, that's where we shine. That's where the magic happens. That's where you excel in who you are, in your work, in your school, and in your life. And that sounded a little trite, but it's true.
I mean, being human, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that means we are going to make faults and mistakes and, things and that. I don't know what that was. Was that my cat? You know what the weirdest thing is? When I said that, my light just shook.
Oh, really?
And I haven't touched. Is my cat down here? My cat's not down here.
Well, let's
That's
pretend
the weirdest
this is a sign from the universe that is saying you are on to a major.
Why did that shake? I didn't touch anything, and I went. Brrr, I thought my cat was jumping on it. So I think there's a sign from the universe that we've hit on the moment of life.
So, what would you say is one of the main themes of our chat today?
Oh, we went. I'd say, like how the past impacts the present and the future.
Oh, that's
a big.
one.
And
wow, that's really well connected to where we're going next.
Okay, great.
Because the theme of the last episode, which you'll have to connect, is they said, be yourself, and the more you're yourself, the more successful you'll be. As in that people say we have to be certain ways, but the magic really happens when you can put that true self forward, and that's whether it's work or school or whatever. So be yourself, and the more you're yourself, the more success you'll have in the future. How does that connect to what you just said about the past affecting the present and future?
I mean, I love that. And I think the extension of that would be that if you're your true, authentic self, you're more clear on then who you aspire to be and where your vision is of like the future and what that future self looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
So like, because I feel like we've gone like from, okay, who you are, getting to know who you are and like leaning into that and then that really revealing opportunities, but then going the next phase, which is what's your future self look like? Like, what are the things that you now want to improve? Like we're a constant improvement in ourselves, right? We're constantly growing and improving. When I look back at who I was when I opened Wax On to today, it's so different. And the judgments I used to have then are very different than the thoughts and judgments I have now.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Now,
it's like sort out your past so that you can figure out who you are who you truly are in the present, so that you can design your future.
Yeah, and unlock that future. Yeah.
What would you say is kind of one of the major themes or even summary topics that we've covered today?
I think the biggest kind of core, if I was to digest our entire conversation into one sentence, it's that happiness is a skill. And it's a skill that's relevant to individuals, organizations, and countries.
Mm-hmm. Well, this one is an interesting one because I don't think it's obvious on the surface. So your challenge is to connect this idea to the idea of the past episode, which was, she summed it up as, we've really talked about how the past impacts the present and our future. So we've really talked about how the past impacts our present and our future. How does that connect to something as happiness is a skill? This is one of the more challenging connections, I will say.
I think when it comes, I'm going to look at this through like a psychology lens. And historically and traditionally, clinical psychology, deficit model psychology. It's done a lot of good work for the world, and it still continues to do a lot of good work for the world. But it was historically, in my opinion, over-focused on our past and under-focused on our future. Positive psychology's come along, flipped that a little bit. It's gone, hey, we're going to focus on how we move forward with a good future, but also acknowledge that part of moving forward to a good future is reconciling with and grappling with and processing our past. So when it comes to working on these skills, I think we need to acknowledge and understand that our past has a role to play in how we build the skills of happiness, but it is not deterministic of how we build the skills of happiness into our future. It influences our future, but it doesn't define it.
That is a good one, people. You know, Declan's just given you, I think, the magic sauce, which is happiness is something we all want for ourselves. And what you just said is your past may have contributed, you know, to where you are at now. But if you believe that happiness is a skill, you can do things in the present to change that future to become happier. What do you think would be the main idea from our talk today?
I think the main idea of our talk would be to cognitively reframe education and future possibilities.
Okay, so to cognitively reframe education and the future possibilities, you have to connect this to the theme of the last episode. Okay. Now, the theme that they produced was, conveniently, happiness is a skill that can be learned, is how they summed up our discussion. So how would you connect happiness as a skill that can be learned to our chat?
Sure. So I think to be happy, you have to consider how you view something and how you frame it. So when we're taking in information, we have an event and we have an emotional response to that event. And it's almost like a cookie, right? So when we have events that are similar, we have similar emotional responses. And I think when we reframe things cognitively, we're able to see possibilities, new possibilities, and those new possibilities give us a sense of a compelling future, and progress towards any compelling future, I think, makes us happy.
What would you say is the theme of our conversation tonight?
Oh, women trying to build a better world.
Women trying to build a better world, maybe with AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a theme for sure. Okay, so then the theme of the last one that you have to connect this somehow. My last guest said he believed the theme of our conversation was that we all had to cognitively reframe education and to see its future possibilities. We had to cognitively reframe education to see future possibilities. And as a side note, that conversation did also center largely around AI. So it's funny that you're back to back. But how would we connect this idea of cognitively reframing education and seeing its future possibilities to women building businesses with AI to make the world better? I should say.
I like the complexity of what the other person said, and I challenge not only the person who was in your last show, but also anyone listening to us right now to try to think, so what are the indicators of that? If we were to do that with AI, how would we do it? And I bet that they will give up. Because when it comes to complex thinking, when we need to use our creativity and our experience and not just gather data and identify patterns, AI is not a friend. And so when the stakes are high, when the challenges are important, we do need the ability of humans to think outside of the box. AI will never think outside of the box because AI is being made to be boxed in the data that it's been trained in. So I think that I love that complexity, and I love how it challenges us as humans to think. And I think there's this temptation with AI that we don't need to think. AI can do that for us. And it really can't. AI can only gather data, identify patterns, and tell us what the majority pattern is. That is not thinking. That's something else. Can be super useful in specific contexts, but that's not thinking. That's not solving the crucial issues of humanity right now.
Mm-hmm. And so then how do we take that and connect it to reframing education in our minds to see the possibilities here in this space?
Well, I think we just need to think about what education is. Is education
Right.
just transmitting knowledge? Like it's
True,
our
true.
teachers just like, encyclopedias with Lex that just go through words
Yeah.
and definitions. If we want to understand education as a complex process, I think we need to determine, what do we want to teach? What do we
Yeah.
want to educate on? And I think that's what shaping the future is about. There's so many challenges that we have as human beings. I think that one of the challenges that we have is to make sure that we get AI right. But there's lots of other things, lots of other challenges, lots of other spaces of innovation. And I fear sometimes that because we're talking about AI all the time, all the innovation and all the work and the effort that other people are making in other fields, with or without AI, are completely being obscured. Like, we have many, 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 many challenges. For some of them, AI will be our friend. For some of them, AI will be completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the role of AI, let's make sure that we move forward on that. So what does it mean to educate? What are the complexities of educating
Mm-hmm.
in a connected world where access to information and to bad information is so easy, when the inputs that kids receive are so complex and come from so many different places? What is the role of being a parent or being a teacher when
Mm-hmm.
the inputs that kids receive are so many and so non-controlled inputs as well? Like, I think that we need to reimagine what it means to build your character in a fast changing world where the last thing we have is control.
What would you say is one of the major themes of our chat today?
Oh gosh, this is going to sound crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but I think one of the major themes of our chat is exploring new boundaries.
Calculating.
We're exploring new boundaries, whether it's about resilience, whether it's about gifts from the mountain. We're exploring things that were bounded for us, and how can we get beyond them in different ways in which we interact, we think about. So I would think that that's our theme, is exploring new boundaries.
Exploring new boundaries for ourselves. Now, I'm going to give you the theme of the last episode, which is a completely different topic, but our job is to connect this in ways that don't make sense yet. So the theme of the last episode, she summed it up as, we are women trying to build a better world with AI. We are women trying to build a better world with artificial intelligence. How does that connect in your mind to discovering new boundaries for ourselves?
That's exactly what AI is.
I can draw some connections too, but how does it connect for you?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm not comfortable yet with AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is a new thing for me to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Remember I said resilience is all about learning new things. I do have a special, it's called EVY AI, which is a way to use artificial intelligence in LinkedIn and responding to people and questions. And I have not been very diligent about using that. So I think exploring new boundaries is, for me, to understand more about what AI can bring. At the same time,
There it is.
as an author, I believe there are things that are in my head that, and we've seen this, where AI pulls stuff out, but they don't give credit for who's done it. They went, wait a minute, that was mine.
That is true. There's IP thing too.
Yeah, your intellectual property. So there's a little bit of a caution there.
Well, first off, what do you think would be a summary topic that we've talked about here on this episode?
I'm not too sure.
A major theme. There's actually a lot.
Yeah, there is, like, all the life lessons from kids as well.
Yeah, teaching lessons from kids, like teaching
Lessons from kids, yeah.
Lessons from teaching kids seems to be a big one here.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the theme from the last episode I'll share, and then our job is to connect them together in a train of thought. So the theme from the last episode, she summed up as, we have been talking about exploring new boundaries and how we can go beyond them. I think that's actually
Yeah.
come up a lot. So how can we connect exploring new boundaries and going beyond them to lessons that we learn from kids?
Oh, I feel like with boundaries, you just have to be excited and curious. I feel like kids always teach you to just be inquisitive, always. So they learn through like pushing buttons and turning knobs and asking how things work and asking those millions of questions. And I think
Yeah.
adults need to be more like that. I feel like we
Yeah.
need to encourage like that thinking and those questions and encourage just asking questions, honestly. I feel like we have this innate drive to share what's within us. So I feel like we tend to shelter those thoughts as well. But I feel like we need to be more open and have almost like less self-awareness and just keep asking questions.
For self-discovery. I mean, kids don't even know that sometimes the boundaries are there, let alone break through them, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're just fearless. And I feel like that's something as us as adults need to learn as well, is just be fearless, ask those questions, be curious, and get excited about learning.
If you could sum up our episode and all the things that we've talked about into one major idea, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's moving from a place of fear to fearless positivity or fearless optimism when it comes to our technology. And I think it's being intentional and empowered and feeling empowered to maximize the benefits of technology, again, rather than mitigating or rather than feeling the negative effects of it. So I would sum it up as such.
Okay. So getting away from fear and having technology support our kind of human well-being.
Exactly.
Now, the theme of the last episode, and it's your job to connect these two, she said, we can learn a lot of adult lessons from children.
Oh.
So how do we connect what we've talked about to we can learn a lot of adult lessons from children?
Ooh. Wow. I'm so glad I went to a liberal arts school. I was educated just for this question.
You're like, I have been prepping for this my entire school life.
Let me just connect point A and point Z, and let me do it in a very compelling way. That's exactly what I've learned. Yeah. Let's think. So, I think what we can you say it one more time though, Bailey, just so I can.
We can learn a lot of adult lessons from children. So how does this connect to what we're saying about not being fearful of tech, but using it to serve our well-being?
I think children offer an incredible example of kind of the optimism and the awe and the specter that they have each and every day, right? Each and every day is, especially as young children, something entirely new that they're experiencing for the very first time. And with that holds limitless potential. And I feel like that's where we're at right now with AI, especially, right? It's new. It holds limitless potential. On one aspect, I think as children, right, there is an element of fear. However, I think more often than not, there's an element of awe and inspiration, right? And I think if we approach our technology with that mindset, awe, inspiration, wonder, benevolence, right? I think kids are naturally benevolent, naturally, kids are kids, no matter like where that child is from, what language they speak, what their background is. Every child has the same, things in common and sees the other child for what they are, which is exactly that. They don't see anything else. And they see a friend, right? And so I think for us to have that same kind of a approach and that mindset when dealing with technology is something that we can take away from.
I love it. I think that, when you see a kid, no matter what tool you give them, they're going to turn it into a toy. They're going to turn it into something that serves their joy. And that can even, whether or not there's someone else doing it there with them or not, I think it's a very nice connection you've made there.